Yeah.
Right, yeah. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Aradhana Tiwari from Be the Change by Aradhana, the founder of the Be the Change page and an Access Consciousness certified facilitator and empowering coach, and your friend to take today's talk show. So, a little bit about Be the Change page. So, Be the Change page is a space where I post a question every morning, which just gets through me, and it just makes you go through your and introspect your own self and empower you to know that you know and you have everything within you. So this is a small space where I just love calling my friends, who I get intimidated as well as inspired. So I'm like, and for me, intimidation is more of inspiring because that really pulls me to a space that, oh wow, I can have that too. So I love inviting all the friends who actually have followed their heart. For me, they are the celebrities of their life. They have chosen greater. They have followed their knowing, and they knew how to twist and turn the life for how they really wanted to be and desire a life and create the life they truly wanted to be. And if we follow everybody else, I have always seen that it leads to nowhere. So I really get fascinated, and I have been fascinated with all this kind of celebrities from my childhood. What happened when they were going through that financial crash? What happened when they were unwell? What happened, and how did they actually turn the stone up? And how did they change the life? And how did they become the invitation? So this is my small gesture to myself to know more about them and get more information so that I can choose greater. And in that midst, I just thought, what if I make this a talk show? And maybe as I get so melted and so melted with these talks, probably you might gain something out of it. So here today, I have a very, very beautiful, amazing wave maker friend of mine, Sarah Granti. And Sarah had a thriving career as a stylist and owner of a celebrity hair salon in Los Angeles. In her quest for a greater life financially, emotionally, and spiritually, she chose to pursue Access Consciousness, a set of tools designed for self discovery, self empowerment, and creating a truly worth living life truly worth living. Today, she travels the world teaching the tools of access consciousness, leading workshops, and changing lives. She's an access consciousness certified facilitator, a Being You certified facilitator, and is developing a conscious beauty program geared towards salon professionals. She also initiated a grassroots movement of unparenting called Being You, Being with Them. Join me in inviting the wave maker, the Sarah Granthi. Sarah, can I have you online, please? Yay, awesome.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Sarah. Thank
Hi.
you. Welcome to the space. How did the space get so lucky to have you here? Thank you for saying yes to it.
Thank you for inviting me. And I love what you're creating. You've inspired me so much by being you. And so I'm excited to have this chat.
I know, awesome. So as I was telling you before the show, that I just feel that I know everything about Sarah, but there is lots which I don't know about Sarah. So I would like to investigate and get into her personal life today. That's what I love doing on the stock show. It's like that celebrities, what is happening behind the camera, what did they went through, and how did they turn the stone upside down. So, Sarah, where would you like to start your life from? Your childhood, how was it, and what got impacted? How you've turned and twisted your life into that wave maker that you truly are? Because what I see you as is like all over. If Sarah thinks of something and it's in 2 minutes around the world, and then you just see everywhere Sarah, and the project like, and she just had this capacity of changing somebody's world in a moment, and she just makes
Mm.
a person a big celebrity. Like how? So I just love everything about you, Sarah, and of course the beauty pageant you truly are. I'm so
Mm.
inspired by you as well. So would like to let's hear from you now more of it.
Thank you, gorgeous one. That is so sweet. Where would I like to start? Well, first off, the things that you see around the world are because I started valuing fun in my life. Um, and the creation is me and a group of people we call the flock of eagles, which are because usually eagles don't flock together. So even our like name of our team is unique in that we want to have the fun and the play. And so if something's fun, I can't not do it. I can't keep myself away from it. It doesn't matter what's going on in my life. Creation and fun are like my driving forces um, to keep me
But
going and actually to get me through anything as well.
So did you have that from your childhood?
I think I did until I started taking my life too seriously. I did as a little girl. I played sports. I was actually, a lot of people won't believe this, but a total tomboy. I played sports. I wanted nothing to do with dresses, nothing to do with makeup. I was all my best friends were boys. I was always like dirty, had dirt under my fingernails, and we're always like moving my body and competing in something. And so yeah, I had a lot of fun until life like got me to start being serious.
What was that? What was that? How and when and what happened?
Well, my parents divorced when I was like 15 years old, and my mom leaned on me a lot. And up until then, because I was such a tomboy, I was super close to my dad. So having my mom lean on me just kind of was such a unique space. And I was like, well, okay, I'll be the adult now. So at 15, 16, I remember I had a boyfriend at that time, and he had a little after school job. My dad had left. We didn't have even groceries. It was a really like intense time. And my boyfriend took me grocery shopping with his like after school job money to buy groceries for my house. So it was starting to like step into some role that I was like, I'll save the day for everybody.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that was a turning point to be serious. So how did
Yeah.
this being serious change your life? Like how did serious made you money?
Well, Sirius didn't make me any money.
That
But I will say this. So with access tools, hindsight's always 2020. And what we try to do or attempt to do or and oftentimes do is um start to have that 2020 vision now. So we shouldn't just be able to see it when it's already done and go, oh my gosh, I can be grateful for that time or that instance or that situation. If we can be grateful in the uncomfortable moments, then life starts to become more ease. Like Access has a mantra, all of life comes to me with ease, joy, and glory. And I know I've seen people finally like wake up and go, wait a minute, all of life, not just the fun, happy parts, but the really crappy ones that you want to hide under a rock can be ease, joy, and glory. And I'll add fun in there. Um, so through that situation, I knew what I wanted or desired in a spouse. I wanted something that wasn't like my father. I wanted somebody who was like like loyal to his family. And so I met my husband when I was 19 years old. I am now 41. We've been together 22 years. So
uh,
from that like tumultuous time, I actually received a lot of information and then chose really early. But had I just been in the choosing and the fun of having found someone that young, um, it would have been different. But instead, I was like, no, let's get serious and do all the serious things that adults are supposed to do.
wow. So tell me, when it was Sarah, I know it would have been really tumultuous at that time and very tough for you at that moment when you didn't even have the groceries in the house. So what was that went through you, and what actually made you shift that moment that okay, I can do it? What was that? So it's like I know a lot of us go through it, and it's only you who can actually change within you, and you have that spirit. But sometimes, certain words by somebody, like for me, it really changed a lot. Like when I went through all those situations, I'm like, no, okay, is that's a possibility and that's a possibility. So what was that for you?
Yeah, I would say that so at that time in my life, it was about getting me right. And so I didn't want to live that way. I didn't want to I knew I always had a little voice like knew I was like I'll say like had a great future available to me. I just didn't know how to get there. So um the money problems, the crash down, I don't know that like nothing really changed to that until like much later. I played the role of my family for a very long time. I struggled. I wore my pride of poverty really strongly. Even when I opened my hair salon, I still wore the facade of a life. So when I opened my hair salon, I was oh geez, I don't remember. It was in 2008. And so um I was in my late 20s and I was struggling even with that, but I was wearing the facade really well. Like I had the nice car, I looked a certain way, I was always like bubbly and happy. I looked like I had everything together, but behind the scenes,
Yeah.
I was struggling. I was emotionally like drained all the time. I had like three young kids at that time. Now I have four. Um, and
Wow.
so it wasn't until about 2015 that the real change happened. And that was a financial like crash down in my own family with my
Wow.
husband.
Wow. So how was it? Because you being I mean a sister to Dr. Dane, and he being using the access tools, what was that keeping you away from those access tools at that point of time?
um, Well, again, with that hindsight being 2020, now I look back at that and I have no regrets. I can look at it and go, wow, so many people sat on the sidelines of possibility for so long that now when they hear my story and I can facilitate them, they're like, oh, I'm so grateful that you get it. So I was beating myself up for a really long time. Imagine somebody being like, hey, here's a pot of gold of possibility. And you're like, nah, I'll take the struggle that I've been so good at over here, you know? That's how I was for a very long time. So Dane introduced me to Access like in 2000. I was 21 years old. I had my firstborn child. He invited me up to Santa Barbara where he lived, near Gary Douglas, and he had just found Access and he's like, I want to do this body process on you. And I was always like his guinea pig growing up. So when he went to massage school, when he went to chiropractic school, when he was even when he went to bartending school, um, I was always like, I want to know what you're doing. So I got to go up and I got my bars run in the year 2000, and that was about all I did for a minute. I uh, watched from the sidelines, watched his life get really big. But when you're a little sister of somebody who's so magical, I always saw him as magical. So that seemed real like a fit. So I would be like, go, brother, go do your thing. Let me know how it's going. I'll be over here being miserable for so long. And then in 2008, he gave me a call and he said, Sarah, I'm going to do a class called the level 2 and 3, which is now called COP and Access. And he said, it's going to be like one of my first times doing this class, and I would really like you there. I'm like, okay, sign me up, no problem. He said, but first you have to do a bars class and a foundation class. I'm like, okay, when is it? And he's like, well, you're going to have to do both of those this weekend because next weekend is my level 2 and 3. And I was like, okay. So I drove up to Santa Barbara and I ended up having a very private foundation and level 1, as they called it back then, with Shannon O'Hara. And I spent like 5 days there in Santa Barbara with her and a couple other ladies. I came back to LA, and the very next weekend went back up and did Dane's, I think it was his second or third time doing level 2 and 3 on his own. And you would think that my whole life changed, and my whole life did change, but that I ran off into possibility. No, no,
No, not
no,
even that. Wow.
no.
Wow.
I drove home with a new sense of what the world was about and where I was buying lies about myself and what I could create. But I was still so tethered to this reality, so tethered to getting this reality right. And the only way you can get something right if you make it real. You can't get something right that you're not first making real. Is like the wild way that our minds work. You know, it's like I have, if I make it real, then the maze that I'm creating for myself as my life then has value. If you don't make it real, then it all just like poofs and goes away, and you have a space to create. Well, I needed that to be so real in order to really get my value, or so I thought. So yeah.
So you wanted to create your own world just by yourself, and you it was like denying this world of access it totally, or like I just wanted to know that, like, because you came from a 5 days of that experience of changing and light tools, because that's what generally a lot of people do when they get into Access. They get into the bars, they'll get into the foundation, then they're like, nah, it's just 2, 3 days and it's over and done. It's too easy. Life can't be that easy, and it's right. And thanks for saying that and being vulnerable about that. And then they like go home and they're like, no, this my life is too tough. They don't get it. These tools won't work. So what was that? Like, what was that change, and what actually made you think that you were in that la la land for 5 days, joyful, happy, and coming back to the same world? What really invited you into this reality at that point of time? What was that?
You know what, my friend? I blame church camp. Okay. Because my whole life, I would go away for the summer for like a week or two. I would have this come to Jesus moment. I would feel God in my heart. Everybody around me was so nice to each other. The same people who like we hate each other at school. We were like hugging and singing songs by campfires. And then I would go back and nobody would be that way. So it was like I don't actually blame church camp. That was a joke in case anybody out there's not laughing. It was a joke. But that was the cycle is like you take a break from your life. How many of us go on vacation? We check out of our actual life, create a fantasy life for a week, and then go, oh, if my life could just be like this all the time. And then we have to go back to what we'd created as our lives. And so that was a pattern with me. I was always trying to escape my life, always. So
Mhm.
going to have these classes, I first did not go with the intention of anything for me. This was so that I could be there and cheer Dane on from the front row. This was for Dane. And how many of us do that? Like if you're a mom, this is for the kids. This is for the like you're selfless, and that's the valuable product in this reality. So I didn't go there. I received a bunch of change, absolutely, but it was like it slipped in the back door because I was there for him and I was there to escape my life, not to change my life. And that really is a huge difference. If you're really asking for change, which was what came up for me in 2016 or 15, was when I was like, okay, hell no, this is not my future. Demand time. What tools can I use? And I had been using the access tools with my kids and in my life, but just not actively. How do I put that? Like I always ask my kids questions. I was always asking them what they're aware of. I was always empowering them to know that they know. But it's almost like I wouldn't do it for me, which is where the unparenting creation came from. I wouldn't do it for me, but I would do it for them. Again, that same pattern, right? Oop. So I didn't
And most of us do that. Most of us do that all the
yeah.
time. Thanks. Yeah. So, what would you say to people like, I know you've there, done that, been, and it never works. Like when, even if you share, but you never know your one share probably might affect somebody. For whenever people go for others to attend the classes or workshops or any of that, I guess they're already making themselves somewhere wrong or whatever. So, what do you have to say there for those kind of people who are just going for fun and it's kind of a fraud petrolling themselves and the world.
Yeah.
So,
One
what
of the
like
things that they say in Access is, what if everything's opposite as it appears to be? And I didn't get that saying for a really long time, guys. I was like, I don't understand. Everything's right in front of me. I can see it. How can it be the opposite? Um, Once I started to really play with that tool, all of the things that I had decided couldn't contribute to me because I wasn't good enough or because I wasn't of this status or I started to be able to receive from the those voices in your head that it should be different. What if those aren't nagging voices that are there to judge you or make you feel bad about yourself? What if they're voices of possibility that are like, hey friend, hey, you know, there's something else possible here, and the possibility lives with you and your choices. And so, the 2015 crash down financially was a huge opening to that for me because I my facade broke down. I woke up one morning and I had an email from my husband who handled all of our bills since I we got together when I was 19 years old. And there's an email saying, we have no money. Our money is gone. He emailed me because he was so worried about how I would react or that he was such a failure. And he said, we have no money. All of our accounts are in the red. I don't know what to do. And I think he was on the brink of like even choosing something for himself. Like, I don't know, but it was very intense. And in that moment, I was like, every time I'd hit a wall financially, I'd called my big brother and he'd fixed it every time for like years. I would be like, hey. And so you kind of create this like backdoor situation where you're not really creating your life, because if anything goes wrong, you'll call your wealthy brother and he loves you so much, he'll fix it. And I woke up that day and I was like, no, like this stops. And I put a demand in my world that it changes no matter what. No matter what I had to do, it was going to change. And so I scraped together whatever dollars I had, literally like change in drawers and whatnot, and little places I had stashed, you know, these little I'd scraped together everything I could. I went and got a huge whiteboard and I wrote out all the debt and who needed to be paid now, what money we had coming in, what I could create that was different. And I just started walking myself for the first time ever, probably in my life, like through a situation, one little baby step, like a baby step at a time. And just started to go like one little step, one little step. And then eventually, we had savings, and we'd never had savings before. And in two
Wow.
months, we had $1,000 in savings. Like for to go from red, and I'm talking a lot of debt and a lot of bills. Okay. Our house, our just to be vulnerable and tell you, like uh we were about at $12,000 a month to just keep um like the lights on and everybody fed and everything like that. And it was, and so to be able to go like, I have $0 and use the tools of access that I knew, ask what else is possible. What else can I create? Don't go down into the ditch of sorrow. Don't blame and shame my husband. What can we create together?
Wow.
Start putting like money where it needed to go. Creating possibility through the muck. Within I think 2 months, we had $1,000 savings, and all of the bills were like paid status. And I was like, oh my God, how did I do that? I had no idea I was capable of doing that. So I called Dane, and I had called him when it first happened. And I said, I know you will probably want to rescue me right now. I can't let you. And what he did for me is something that changed everything for me. And he said he took fear out of the equation. So, because all of us, like when those things happen, all the worst case scenario is what shows up, right? Like I'm going
Yeah.
to be homeless, my kids aren't going to have food, all of that shows up. And what Dane said to me was, um, you will never be homeless. The kids will never go hungry. I am here. I have your back. I know you can do this. And with
Wow.
those words, I ran.
My whole body is like shivering right now. Wow. That's so amazing. And
So,
I think
yeah,
thanks
go
for
ahead.
Sarah for that. I just wanted to add there because I have been through that situation very recently. And I always say that, I mean, one should be acknowledging that we are lucky enough to have so many amazing people in our life. It is always that you is the one who does it. But sometimes those two words of somebody makes you really go through everything that you've been through. And I'm sure that, as you beautifully said, and how amazing, as generous Dane has always been. So those two lines of you probably, I think, that sailed you through it, right? So that's what I always empower and ask people to be, that kindness to them and to people. It's not that you have to go and give the money. It's not that it's just that being that energy, and you just sitting next to somebody can change their world. But that is so beautiful. Yeah, going ahead. I just got
No,
so with it.
yeah, thank you for
Yeah.
that, because fear, fear in access is we call it a distractor implant, because it's going to distract you from actually what's possible. It's going to distract you, put your focus on avoiding the fear rather than what you can create. And so when he took the fear out of my world, it was literally now almost like playing Tetris. Like I just had to take all the boxes and put them in the orders of what would create my reality, rather than the fear that the whole thing is going to crash. And so in a few months, I called Dana. I said, "You won't believe it." I said, "We have $1,000. Like we've never had $1,000 in savings ever, and we've been together for like 15 years at this time, And we were always paycheck to paycheck, like everybody else that I knew. So I didn't even feel bad about it, because I surrounded myself by other people who didn't have any money or didn't have any possibility in the world either. So I never felt out of place. And
Wow.
so, right?
That's
And
amazing.
so I called him, and he said, wow. He's like, okay. And it just matter of factly, he's like, are you ready to become an access consciousness facilitator? And I was like, oh, well, I'm not that okay. I'm not that conscious. I couldn't create that. Like that's wild and crazy Big Brother, shh, you know. But what he did was he like poked something and planted a little tiny seed in my world, and I was like, I wonder what that would look like. That's wild. I already own a salon. I'm already like successful, and I'm already doing my thing. Like, how could I have two jobs? Like, what is that? You know? And it was a matter of like maybe a month, and I was like, all right, I'll do it. And he invited me to Costa Rica. And funny enough, this is how the universe sets us up, like for success and for possibility. If you would actually receive it, is he goes, let me call the gaggle that does our prereqs and see, because I'd taken classes over all of these years, so 15 years of like, oh, Dane's in town, I'll go to class, or oh, classes are online now, I'll log on and take one, sure, you know, and then feel like church camp, feel great for the weekend. And so he called me and he said, okay, so the only class you need is a live SOP. I'm like, what? I thought it was going to be like a couple years of prereqs, you know, like you hear from everybody else, but I had gotten all my prereqs in that amount of time. And so, and he said, and the next one I'm doing is next month in Santa Barbara. So I couldn't even say like, oh, I can't make it to Europe, I don't have a passport. I couldn't even do that. It was like an hour and a half away. And he's like, you can stay. Grace said you could stay with her, Grace Douglas Gary's daughter. And I was like, shit, like I can't even get out of it that way. I was like, all right, I guess I'm going to SOP. So I did, and basically then within like the next couple months, I had gone to certified facilitator training the whole time. Couldn't believe I was there. Thought I was the biggest fraud there ever was. And the rest is really history. Then after that, I just started creating and enjoying my life.
Wow. What happened? You did not put that in the backseat when you came home from there? What was that?
Well, well, Costa Rica, that'll do it to you. Well, it was like sitting in that room and looking around at people and hearing stories like this and talking to people in the pool or at lunch who weren't scholars of a certain kind that I had separated myself from. I'm like, you know, I'm a hairstylist. I didn't go to, you know, get my master's degree or anything like that, where that was my line of success for people. So when I sat with like people from all walks of life who were like, I'm making a change and these tools have to get out in the world now, I was like, wow, where has my brain been? You know, so I had a point of view shift. Really, it changed your point of view, change your reality, period. And that's really what it was. I just changed my point of view and I was like, all right, I'm on a different path now. I literally came home on that path. I didn't escape my path as like a week, you know, a week in Costa Rica, be back. That was so far out of my reality at the time, like so far. So I didn't even know how to get Sky Miles at the time. I'd never been on a plane probably more than 5 hours. Oh, it's only 4 hours to get down there, so I should probably shut up. But I hadn't been, other than going to Mexico a few times, I hadn't really been out of the country. I was afraid to travel. So it wasn't just like a weekend away. It was like a world changing thing for me. So it was a different experience to come back and create from that place.
And how was it for your kids? How was it for your husband? And how was it for your family when you were like so changed? What changed around them and what was it?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love doing interviews with really good questions. You're great. Um, well, it was, wow, that could be a whole interview in itself, because when my husband and I first got together, obviously I was 19, he's 7 years older, he's 26 years old. He already had a little baby girl that was 9 months old. I came in and helped to raise her. He was that father figure that I was like, he's not a father figure, but he was a father and a figure. So, but he had it. He had this like stability about him that I was craving since my dad had left when I was younger, you know? And so he had always just handled everything. And I was always like free to go do, you know, play, but he handled it. And so with using the access tools, the things that had begun to shift and change really took him showing up and being like, okay, I'll have that. Because, you know, I was so entrained to be careful around the male ego. And so I projected male ego on him that he was going to be so threatened by my new choices. He never was. Once I realized like, that's mine, I'm projecting that at him. He's like, go baby, go. He was always so excited. the kids had to adapt to a mom who used to like do everything because that's how I found my value. I did everything. And then they always had to be like perfectly coiffed and look like, the kids that just stepped off the magazine. And now I'm like, hey, if you could just brush your teeth today, that would be great.
Wow, what a change. Wow.
So we all shifted and adapted to everything. And my husband and my like financial, like what we bring in changed. Like he had already always made more than me, and then all of a sudden I started creating more and like matching and then going a little above. And then I thought, oh god, they're going to hear, he's gonna freak out. And didn't happen. It did not happen, but I would have put money on it. I would have bet a good penny that it would have been a huge problem, and not at all.
Wow. Wow. So you mean, I mean, while you were talking, I could just sense, did your home become more joyful? Was it like started being more fun, no discipline, not like, picture perfect kids, not picture perfect home, but yes, there's so much for joy. So it's,
Yeah.
wow, it's
Yeah,
so,
I started to look at rules and really that how much more I could empower my kids to create their own reality and show them that choice is actually their potency. And so yeah, it definitely got more interesting for a while, to be like, no curfew, we'll see what your choice creates, or something like this, like, what time do you think you should be home? And they're like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? Like, you tell me what to do, I do it or I don't do it. Like, that's how this works, right? And it was kind of like different conversations started showing up. And yeah, and that always brings more joy when people have more possibility.
yeah. So I know it's a beautiful journey that I can see you going crazy. I know you have craft your life very beautifully, like how you got into it when you had the family thing with the mom, you got a guy. Then when it was done, you started finding your, and it was a time now. And as you know, like what we talk in consciousness is now the time. Probably you knew the right time when you got into it and you changed the world. So, Sarah, I just love asking this question to everybody, but in spite of everything else, whatever you created, what do you know about life? What is it that you only you know, if no access, no nothing, no nobody, but what do you know about life?
I know now that my life is a gift, regardless of what I'm going through. Um, and I don't just mean like a gift to me, like something that's been given to me as a gift, but it's a gift to others. And that changing the world, I used to, Dane wrote a book called Being You Changing the World. If you haven't read it, you should. I know you have, but listeners. But
Yeah.
I used to think that that was way big, way too big for little old me. And because I thought I had to either be a politician or write new legislature or be that type of person to change the world. And what I would tell people is like, now with using the tools, like I change the world when I be me, but be me meaning like stop judging me when I just give a smile or a laugh to somebody who required it. I change the world. Like literally the molecules change. um,
Wow.
and so if we could get out of judgment of ourselves and stop separating from others, like the world that we would have would actually be the world that a lot of us desire. But we've made this reality so valuable and so real so that we could get it right. And this reality has so much about judgment and separation. And so like just being here, being with you today, and you're in India, I'm in California, we're having a conversation about possibility. Like the world has changed because of this conversation. The world has changed because of what you've chosen to be and show up as and invite people to. And it continues as you continue to create that. So no matter what you're doing, like if you're a gardener, if you are, a teacher, well, that's kind of, people always say that teachers change the world, but doesn't matter. Like if you're a bookkeeper and you're like, oh, but you be something different in the world, that is a gift. And I didn't believe
Wow.
it before.
That's
So
That's so beautiful. And other thing I really want to touch about you is the beauty. And you do these classes around beauty. I know you do foundation, you do other classes. You are being a facilitator, and as I said, you're a wave maker. And it's like, where was this gem hidden so far? And like suddenly it's you everywhere. I didn't even know you, and suddenly I see you one day in the class, and then I'm like, okay, I didn't know you were then sister. Nothing, not going. And I kept looking at you, you tall girl, like I'm like, okay, somebody. taking my attention. I'm like, wow, who is she? Who is she? It's much later than I come to know that you're Tane's sister. I say, oh wow, okay, there's something that she has in her. But then I see you making those waves. But what really attracted me was your beauty classes, where you started talking about your beauty. And I remember I so missed when you were being in India. And I just want you to know, the world to know, what does that those classes create? Because beauty for a lot of you, into a stylist, you have a big salon in Los Angeles, you change people's realities. But what is beauty? Like, what would you like to say around beauty? Because people really die and have so many judgments around beauty, how they look, how they not be. And after certain changes, after access, after conducting these classes, what would you like to say around that?
Well, I would love to see beauty be undefined, meaning, that we're not looking in magazines or on TV for whether we should judge ourselves or not as beautiful. That beauty is in all things, and it's even in you if you'll have it. Um, the okay, if you there's a lot of beautiful jewelry in India, and there's a lot of uniqueness in India. So I'm going to use this. Okay. So let's just say you were looking for the perfect gemstone, and somebody said, come see this one. There's only one of it. It's so rare and so valuable. You would drive, if you were looking, if this is what you were desiring, you would go to wherever to see this gemstone because it's one of a kind. When they make brand new cars, if they're like, we made 5 of this, it makes it way more valuable, right? When a car comes off the line and you're like, oh, only 5 of these in the world, everybody's like, oh my gosh, let me see it. But we, as the body and being together as we are one of a kind, and we think we have to homogenize ourselves to look like everything and everybody else in order to find the beauty. But you have to use judgment of what is beautiful in order to do that. So what I would love to invite people to is really to start to look for what is so unique and different about them, and be willing to be more of it, not comparing to other. And it's so easily said. I completely get that it's so easily said. But one tool I can give you today to start to change it, and this is what changed it for me. And I'm definitely not great. Not I'm better. I'm great. I'm not always good at it, because I definitely have my moments of like what is happening? Why does my body look like this? Why does my makeup look like that? Whatever, absolutely. But one thing that will always change it, even in the moment, and I've done this like in restaurants, I've done this in classes, like go today and take 2 minutes minimum and look in a mirror into your own eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Stare into those eyes and talk to the being, and perceive the being that is there. When we put lotion on our bodies, touch your body the way that you would touch a lover's body. And if you're not ready for that, how you would touch a beautiful little child's body when you're rubbing lotion on them after the bath. You caress and have such a kindness in your touch. But when we touch our own bodies, we're like, I watch people like rip their hair out with brushes, or like rub the lotion on, like with no gentleness and gratitude for your body. And it might be because you have judged it as not beautiful. And
Yeah.
so those two things are a really great place to start to look at the gift of your beauty, your unique, one of a kind beauty, and start to expand what's possible from there when you claim, own, and acknowledge that. Because I've seen people that are like judgeably not beautiful by this reality standards, and um, yet are so beautiful by the fact that they claim, own, and acknowledge it, and are so like magnetic, where people just want to be around them and give them whatever they require. And it's because of who they choose to be and how they choose to receive from their own beauty.
Yeah, because I mean, coming from, I mean, as you were talking about India, because India does not have all those facilities for every, and there are small villages and spaces where people don't even know the parlors exist. But they've watched the media, and then they're like, wow. I remember me, I've grown up in a village, and I used to look at the, all the actresses and stuff, and film world. I'm like, how does she have the curly hair? How does she have the, and I thought that they're naturally born like that. And I kept looking at myself. I'm like, I'm not born like that. How do I do my hair? And I'm like, oh. And every day I would tell the universe, can you make my hair like that? Can I do that? And I remember I spoiled my hair. I had beautiful hair. I went one salon. I finally found. I said, can you do my hair like that actress? And but that kept me making feel that, oh, I'm not good enough. But I'm sure everybody's going to look at those guys, not at me. So parlors have become my favorite space ever since, like, even growing up. But now I'm like, oh, really don't need that. It's not about that space. It's about you. And now when people tell me also, I'm like, I don't. Earlier, I wanted to be called beautiful, and even if anybody said beautiful, I think, no, I'm not beautiful. I know they just have some interest. They want something to be done by me. But yet, over the period of time with that and stuff, and then acknowledging that yes, I'm beautiful. But now also, it's not about the face. It's not about the hair. It's about you. So I so missed your class in Mumbai, and that was one class I really wanted to reach and wonder what's right about that. And I saw a lot of people changing Sarah in that class. I could sense that energy. I could sense a lot of people being present in the Facebooks on the and creating the media around it, that we are so happy to be. And I was like, what will it take the whole world to talk about beauty all the time? Because we have as you also said in your life, you also had that picture perfect, magazine perfect. But there is so many stories behind those magazine perfect, right? When I've been through that life, I've been seeing that life, how those picture perfect stuff is created. And I'm sure you change people's life every day in that salon. So, would you like to tell us more, a little back end story of the people who actually come in those salons, and what is actually going in? Is the life so perfect, so amazing as it sounds, or it's like, I mean, coming from you would be more genuine because that's your job. I mean, that's your work. You do it every day. So, I mean, people would love to hear that, I'm
One,
sure.
yeah, thank you for that. And one of the things I do want to add to the beauty conversation first is that we don't have to exclude the beauty routines or fun and play and the things that are there for our bodies to play with, like the same way that we like nice clothes. So I wear extensions. I like, vulnerable admission right now, I can't grow hair this long. This hair did not grow out of my head. I just am willing to play with what the beauty industry has to offer me in 2020. Okay. The same with, like, covering roots and covering grays and all of those things. Like, awesome, they're here. Let's play with them. And so it's really not making one side right or wrong. Like, what happens in the beauty industry so often, especially when someone's like, I'm going to bring consciousness to the beauty industry, they're like, oh, make the beauty industry wrong, and now all of your beauty comes from the inside. Well, what I would love to invite people to is to include the outside and the inside and go, wow, everything about me is so unique. There isn't another one on the planet. And it doesn't matter if I dye my hair red or I wear it dark brown or whatever. I can play with my beauty the way that I remember, like, playing with baby dolls, and that's probably the worst example ever. But
I know,
like,
I'm sure we all have done that, Sarah. So
yeah.
we all have done that. Been
Well,
there.
what's funny is I think I did for a little bit. But I was like, wait, like I said, more of like a rough and tumble kid, like,
Yeah.
more, anyways.
Also,
But,
yeah.
but so just, I remember being in Brazil facilitating a beauty class, and a woman got to the mic and said, um, you know, how can we change the beauty perspective in Brazil? It's all about plastics and blah, 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 blah. And I said, hey, do you have a point of view about plastic surgery? And she said, well, yeah. And so we did this facilitation. She's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how wrong I was making it. And so that's still a polarity and a judgment around beauty. Just because you've decided your judgment is the right judgment and you're righteous about it, that doesn't mean that you're not judging. So let people choose what they're going to choose with their bodies. If it's not for you, it's not for you. If makeup's not for you, makeup's not for you. But just because you don't wear makeup doesn't mean you're more conscious and you're more aware and willing to love yourself. A lot of people don't wear makeup because they've given up and don't think anything will help them feel beautiful. So I just, like, to swirl it all in a pot, it's really about how you create yourself and how that's a beautiful gift to the world. On to your question about LA hair salon. I in the beauty industry and playing with people, I started to do something called, well, my consultations, a lot of stylists do their consultations from behind the chair, looking into the mirror, looking through down the scope of the vision of the person that who they're talking to see them. And what I kept finding myself doing all the time when I started playing with access tools was like, oh, I'm dipping into their reality and then looking at them through their eyes. And they are judging the out of themselves. So I was
Wow.
like, this has to change because I don't see those things when I just look at them. But if I'm looking through their scope, I see all of them. And now we're trying to hide or fix something that they don't find beautiful rather than enhance something that is from like their perspective. So I started to do my consultations from in front of the chair. I got stools for all of my staff and put it in front of the chair, so the mirror is behind me, and I'm looking at them, and I'm seeing the shape of their face and the beauty of their cheekbones and the colors in their eyes that I can match up to a tone in their hair. And it just started to change everything. So, women come in and all they want to do is give you their list of like, I have a double chin, so I need my hair covered. I don't like the back of my neck, so I need it long enough. I have a big forehead, so I need bangs. I hate my ears, so can you make it go over? And it's a list of like, here are all the things I hate. Can you just fix them all for me with my hair? And what started to happen was when they weren't looking at themselves and they were looking at me, they could receive me acknowledging their beauty and were willing to see something about them that they'd never seen before, like literally never seen before. I'd said to people, do you know you have amber specks in your eyes? And they would be like, what? And I'd go get a mirror and have them look and they're like, wow, I had no idea. And I'm like, yeah, I used to not know too that I have certain colors in my eyes too. And so I go, what if we would play your highlights off of that amber and create some caramel tones? And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not the
Point
ugliest
of
thing on
view.
the planet.
Wow.
And so
That's
just change their point of view, change their reality with their beauty.
wow. That is so amazing. I mean, you do such a beautiful work. No wonder I always get amazed by you. So, what
Mhm.
I know your life is all about being the change, and what would you like to say around be the change on this platform? What would you like people to invite to? Like, what would you like to say that from your end?
I would, oh, I love that. You know, Dr. Dane here has started something called Earth Wizards. And so if I was going to leave today, I would invite people to that group, the Earth Wizards group. It's free. There's a ton of content. What's available for us to be the change with right now is really to include everything, including the earth, including the universe in our choices. That might seem so big for some people because I'm gonna tell you that seems so big for me. When people would talk about global warming, I would be like, okay, someone's got to handle that. I don't even know I'm going to pay for, dinner tonight, much less global warming. So I didn't have it in my world that I could create any change because I couldn't even create change in my own damn life. How am I going to fix the planet? Right. Um, but in being with the Being You tools and now facilitating for a number of years, every molecule of judgment we pull out of the world changes it. And so judgment has a toxicity to it, has a separation. It's literally an energy that kills and kills possibility. So if you don't know how to change the world or, get on climate change or, you're not running for office anywhere and you're like, I don't know, if you just get out of judgment of you, one molecule a day, if you just take one where you're like, I'm judging that about me, what else is possible? Ask a question, turn the molecule. You're changing the world and also contributing to a greater planet. And so,
Wow.
like, I'm doing a class coming up called Unearthing You because it's really like moving through the change that we can be, even if in this 10 seconds, in this moment in time, this year, whatever it is, that you focus on creating change within you, that radiates out and actually does contribute to changing things on the planet.
Wow. That's so beautiful. Thank you. That's really, really, it's already expanding. Thanks, Sarah, for that.
Thanks.
I know how about never give up, never give in, never quit. That's the tagline of the show. So, I mean, with the corona, with all the other possible, I mean, people look reasons to give up. So, what would you like to say there, and what would you invite them to a different possibility, like of never giving up, never give in, never quit? What do you mean by that? What does that resonates in your world? I mean, you've been doing it pretty well.
Thank you for that. Some days feels like a yes, and some days I'm like, that's a no, Bob. But the never give up, never give in, never quit. There's a thread of trusting that the universe has your back in there. So if you knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that the universe would not let you fail, and that if you keep seeking possibility, but you knew in your gut, then quit wouldn't even be an option. Like why quit? I like there's nothing I can't be and create. But quit, never give up, never give in, and never quit. Those words flowing together for me are more about possibilities. Like they're around every corner. So in every failure, you've learned something. Air quotes on failure. Every time, I don't know if I'm gonna open a can of worms because I know you're closing up the show, but like I just had a situation in my life in the last couple of days that has been really heartbreaking because I realized that I am not mourning like a death. It's an animal that is not healthy and needs to be put down. And I've only had her for 2 months, and she brought all this joy. And she was a possibility. I had a whisper of a possibility, and I chose her. And what I realized this morning is I was like, I'm not mourning the death of the animal. I'm mourning the death of the conclusion of what possibility means.
Wow.
So
Wow.
possibility is just it doesn't mean it's going to be always light and cheery and like happy. And yet I can be happy in the fact of what this being in this little sweet fuzzy body brought me. And that it doesn't mean my awareness to choose it was incorrect. It just means that I concluded that it meant we were going to live a happy life together.
Yeah.
And so, like, and I, with never give up, never give in, never quit, wrapping that up is really, there's possibility in everything if we'll look for it. In every problem, if you address every problem, you will find the sweet possibility underneath. And so just if you keep going and asking questions, that will always reveal itself.
How beautifully did you put, Sarah, that whole thing of that animal making a choice? That's so beautiful. I mean, every word you said is touched me so deeply. Thank you. It's been such
Thank
an
you.
honor and pleasure. And would you like to tell people what your projects are coming and any classes or anything that you would like to tell about with your
Sure. Um, so the thing, we have a big thing called 12 Days of Misfit Merriment. I'm interviewing with my friend Paula Pralta, December 1st. Uh, uh, Over 20 different CFs about how they get through the holidays and what tips and tricks they have to create ease. And all the profits for that are going to Actions for Futures. So actionsforfutures.com if you'd like to know more about that. And then after that, I have this thing called Slay the Holidays. So for 10 days, I'm going to be getting on Zoom for 20 minutes a day. And we're going to do the mantra. We're going to do a little lead exercise. We're going to say the I am statements. We're going to, just have 20 minutes a day just for you to get through the holidays. That's like 25 US dollars. And that should be a lot of fun. So doing that. And then I have my Unearthing of You, Being You class taster on December 13th,
and we have
and
put
a
all the
foundation. I have
guys.
lots of stuff.
Yeah. So all the links for to connect with Sarah are in the chat, guys. If you want to connect with her, and what else is possible, what more magic can be brought into your life just by being around her. And I think that was fabulous. And I mean, I loved every bit of it, Sarah. And what else is possible in future? Keep creating, keep being that inspiration. I mean, I'm inspired, and I'm sure millions of people have been inspired by you. I'm so
Thank
grateful for
you.
that. And what else is,
Thank you.
and
And
guys,
thank you for the inspiration you be, woman. Your strength and courage and potency has created a lot in my world at a number of times. I'm so grateful.
thank you, thank you. And thank you, my team, Sonali, Shivangi, and Umesh, for having my back all the time, creating this. And anybody who wants to be on the show, who would, it'll be my pleasure if you're actually choosing your heart, following your knowing, and have the courage to be the change. Come join me, and I will love to interview on this platform. And keep following us for next Sunday, next person, and let's see what uh, is in store for us in future. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here.